Welcome to the Platform Engineering Playbook podcast, where everything you hear is built, reviewed, and improved by AI, by me, and by you, the listener. This show keeps me, and hopefully you, up to speed on the latest in platform engineering, SRE, DevOps, and production engineering. It's a living experiment in how AI can help us track, explain, and discuss the fast-moving world of infrastructure. Every episode is open source. If you've got something to add, correct, or challenge, head to platform-engineering-playbook.com. You'll find all the content and a link to the GitHub repo. Open a pull request, join the conversation, and make the playbook smarter. Let's get into it.
Today, we're diving into the 2025 PaaS landscape. Flightcontrol, Vercel, Railway Render, Fly.io, everyone's promising Heroku-like simplicity with cloud-scale performance. But which one actually delivers?
We'll break down the pricing models, compare real-world costs for the same workload, and give you a decision framework for choosing the right platform for your team size and technical expertise.
Plus, we'll talk about when it makes sense to just build your own infrastructure instead, and what the break-even point actually looks like when you factor in engineering time and opportunity cost.
So let's start with the fundamental question. Why are we even talking about these platforms? What problem are they solving?
The AWS complexity tax is very real. A mid-sized team running typical web apps needs VPC configuration, load balancers, auto-scaling, managed databases, S3 with proper IAM, CloudFront CDN, CI/CD pipelines, monitoring infrastructure, disaster recovery plans. Doing this properly requires 1 to 2 dedicated DevOps engineers at $150 to $200K each.
And the 2024 Platform Engineering Survey found teams spend an average of 30% of their infrastructure time just maintaining deployment pipelines and dealing with AWS complexity.
Right, so PaaS. Platforms are trading money for time. The question is that trade-off worth it for your team?
Let's break down the 5 major players, starting with Flightcontrol because it's the most interesting architecture. It deploys to your own AWS account.
Yeah, Flightcontrol is unique here. You're paying them $97 to $397 a month for a management layer, but the actual infrastructure costs go directly to AWS on your bill.
So the pricing model is free tier for single users. Starter is $97 a month for 25 users, includes 5 services. Business is $397 a month for 100 users, includes 10 services. Enterprise is custom pricing with SSO, CIM, SOC2, Type 2.
And critically, you pay AWS infrastructure costs separately. So for a typical startup with 5 services, you're looking at $97 for Flightcontrol, plus maybe $300 in AWS costs, about $400 total.
Compare that to Vercel running the same workload. Vercel Pro is $20 per user. Let's say 3 users, so $60. But then bandwidth overage for 50 gigs is $400. Function execution adds another $100. You're at $560 total.
That's $160 a month savings, or about 28%. And the gap widens as you scale.
But Flightcontrol isn't for everyone. You need AWS knowledge for troubleshooting. Preview environments, count as services, and add up quickly. And you're not avoiding AWS entirely. You're just managing it more easily.
It makes economic sense when you're hitting Vercel's bandwidth or compute limits. Below 50 gigs monthly bandwidth, simpler platforms may be more cost-effective.
Speaking of Vercel, let's talk about why people love it despite the cost.
Vercel's developer experience is genuinely exceptional. Zero config. Next.js deployments, global edge network. Instant preview deployments for every pull request. If you're a front-end team, it's hard to beat.
The pricing. Hobby tier is free but non-commercial only, with 100 gigs bandwidth. Pro is $20 per user plus usage, with $20 included credit. Enterprise starts at $3,500 a month, but realistically, you're looking at $20 to $25K per year minimum.
And here's where it gets expensive. Usage charges beyond included. Bandwidth starts at 15 cents per gig with tier pricing. Function executions are pay per execution. Edge middleware has additional compute charges. Image optimization is billed per image.
I've seen teams think they're on a $20 a month pro plan, and then the bill comes in at over $1,000.
Yeah, what looks like $60 for 3 team members becomes $800 for bandwidth, $150 for functions. Suddenly you're at $1,010 per month. Railway would be about $120 for the same workload. That's an 88% premium.
So when does Vercel make sense?
When developer experience justifies the premium. Front-end teams that absolutely need instant previews and edge optimization. Teams within the free tier limits for side projects. But be very careful about bandwidth and compute usage.
Let's talk about Railway, the modern Heroku.
Railway modernizes the Heroku model with transparent usage-based pricing. Hobby is $5 a month minimum. Pro is $20 minimum. But you only pay for what you actually use beyond those minimums.
And the resource costs are pay per second. Memory is 0.000386 per gigabyte second. vCPU is 0.000772 per vCPU second. Storage is 0.000006 per gigabyte second. Egress is 5 cents per gig.
For a typical small production app, 2 web services with 1 gig RAM and 1 vCPU each. That's about $35 a month. Postgres database with 2 gigs RAM, $20. Redis cache with 512 megs, $5. 20 gigs of egress, $1. Total about $61, but the Pro plan includes 20 in credit, so actual bill is $41.
That's really transparent. What's the catch?
Free tier is trial only, 30 days. Pro has a $20 minimum even if you use less. Egress at 5 cents per gig adds up. That's 10x more expensive than raw AWS egress. And there's no built-in CDN, so pair it with Cloudflare if you need that.
That's for
Startups wanting predictable costs with usage-based pricing. Teams migrating from Heroku. Full-stack apps needing databases and background workers.
Render is next. They position as more flexible than serverless, less complex than AWS.
Render has straightforward pricing. Hobby tier is free with 1 project and 100 gigs bandwidth. Professional is $19 a month per user with unlimited projects and 500 gigs bandwidth. Organization is $29 per user with 1 terabyte bandwidth and audit logs. Enterprise is custom with SSO, SCIM, guaranteed uptime.
And compute is prorated per second. Free tier is 512 megs RAM with 0.1 CPU. Starter is $7 for 512 megs and 0.5 CPU. Standard is $25 for 2 gigs and 1 CPU. Pro is $85 for 4 gigs and 2 CPUs.
For a production web app plus database, you're looking at professional plan for 2 users. That's $38. Standard web service is $25. Postgres standard is $20. Total is $83 per month.
Compare that to Flightcontrol Starter at $97 plus AWS costs of about $50. Total is $147. Render is $64 cheaper, 44% less.
The catch: free tier services spin down after inactivity. Bandwidth limits can be restrictive for media-heavy sites. Fewer advanced features than competitors. No edge deployment. Single region by default.
But for teams that want managed services without usage-based billing surprises, Render hits a sweet spot.
Absolutely. The free tier is genuinely useful, and paid tiers are predictable.
Last one, Fly.io. This is the most technical of the bunch.
Fly runs your Docker containers on hardware-isolated VMs. They call them Fly machines, distributed globally across 35-plus regions. Sub-100 millisecond response times worldwide.
Pricing is pure pay-as-you-go, no monthly minimum. VM pricing is based on CPU/RAM presets, roughly $5 per month per gigabyte of RAM plus CPU cost. Storage is 15 cents per gig per month. Bandwidth starts at 2 cents per gig in North America and Europe, up to 12 cents in other regions.
For a global web app running in 3 regions, 3 VMs with 1 gig RAM and 1 CPU each, that's $45 a month. Postgres with 4 gigs RAM, $25. 10 gigs storage, $1.50. 30 gigs bandwidth, mostly North America and Europe, $1. Total about $72.50.
Same globally on Vercel would easily be $260 or more. Fly saves about $188 a month, 72% less.
The trade-off: steeper learning curve. You need to be comfortable with Docker and infrastructure concepts. Bandwidth costs vary significantly by region. No managed services beyond Postgres. Bring your own Redis. Documentation assumes infrastructure knowledge.
So best for teams comfortable with Docker that need global low-latency deployment. WebSocket or stateful apps. ML workloads with GPU access.
Right. If you're technical and want control without full AWS complexity, Fly is powerful.
Okay, let's do the decision framework. When should you choose each platform?
Use Flightcontrol when you're already on AWS or have AWS expertise. Team size is 10 plus engineers. Compliance requires infrastructure control. You're hitting cost ceilings on other platforms, or you need AWS-specific services like SageMaker. Avoid if you're trying to avoid AWS, team is under 5 people, or you want the simplest option.
Use Vercel when you're using Next.js heavily. Developer experience is top priority. You're a front-end team that values instant previews, budget supports premium pricing, or you need best-in-class edge performance. Avoid if you're budget-conscious, have high bandwidth needs, or need back-end services.
Use Railway when you want transparent usage-based pricing, need databases plus background workers, you're migrating from Heroku, you're a startup with unpredictable traffic, or you value modern DX without complexity. Avoid if you need edge deployment or enterprise features.
Use Render when you want predictable monthly bills, need generous free tier for side projects, value simplicity over advanced features, you're a small team under 10 people, or don't need edge optimization. Avoid if you need advanced features or global deployment.
Use Fly.io when you need global low-latency deployment, you're comfortable with Docker and infrastructure, want technical control without full AWS complexity, running WebSocket or stateful apps, or need GPU access for ML workloads. Avoid if you want fully managed experience or prefer GUI over CLI.
And the big question, when should you just build your own with Terraform or Pulumi?
The break-even point is around 3 to 5 dedicated platform engineers. If your team is over 30 engineers with a dedicated platform team, very specific compliance requirements, heavy AWS-specific service usage, cost optimization is critical with 10K plus monthly bills, or infrastructure itself is a competitive advantage, then building makes sense.
But here's the math. Year 1 with 2 platform engineers, $300K in salary and benefits. AWS infrastructure, $120K. Terraform tooling, $10K. Total $430K per year.
PaaS alternative like Flightcontrol for 30 engineers. Platform fee is $47.64 annually. AWS costs $120K, total $124,764.
Self-managed costs 3.4 times more in year 1. And that's before you factor in the opportunity cost of not shipping features.
Exactly. Unless you have 30 plus engineers or very specific requirements, PaaS platforms provide better ROI than building. The engineering time saved compounds into faster feature delivery.
Any final thoughts on hidden costs to watch?
For Flightcontrol, preview environments count as services and can add up. AWS costs can surprise without proper monitoring. For Vercel, bandwidth charges scale aggressively, image optimization bills separately, enterprise has steep minimum. For Railway, $20 pro minimum, even if you use less, egress is 10x AWS pricing. For Render, free tier spins down with cold starts. Bandwidth limits are strict. For Fly, bandwidth costs vary wildly by region. Steeper learning curve means time investment.
The key insight here is that there's no universal answer. If you're a solo developer, use Render Free or Railway Hobby. 5-person startup, Railway or Render Professional. Scaling to 20-plus engineers, Flightcontrol starts making sense. Front-end focused on Next.js. Vercel if you can afford it. Need global edge. Fly.io wins on price performance.
And remember, you can migrate. These platforms make it relatively straightforward to move. Start with simplicity, scale to control as needed.
The platforms are converging on features but diverging on pricing models and target audiences. Match your team size, technical expertise, and budget to the right trade-off.
The fundamentals of good engineering remain constant even as the landscape evolves. Start with simplicity, prove the value, then scale to control as your needs grow.
That's it for this episode of the Platform Engineering Playbook podcast. Every topic, transcript, and summary you just heard lives out in the open at platform-engineering-playbook.com, where anyone can suggest updates or add insights through GitHub. If you've got thoughts, fixes, or new ideas, open a PR. And if you enjoyed the episode, rate us on your favorite podcast platform. We're always shooting for 5 stars. While you're there, give the project a star on GitHub. It helps others find and contribute to the Platform Engineering Playbook. This podcast is generated by AI, reviewed by AI, me and you, a community of engineers keeping our craft sharp. Thanks for listening, and see you next time inside the Platform Engineering Playbook.